This video is about categorical syllogisms, standard form, mood, and figure. We've already covered this in class, but I figured you might need a little bit of a refresher considering the circumstances. Okay, so you remember that a syllogism is an argument with exactly two premises and one conclusion. And you remember we looked at this argument in class. All soldiers are patriots. No traitors are patriots. Therefore, no traitors are soldiers. So now we're looking to put this categorical syllogism into standard form, which, remember, 1 requires that we find the letter statement. So we've got the A, the E, the I, and the O statements. All S are P, no S are P, some S are P, and some S are not P. So this is an A statement, all are, an E statement, no are. We've got the therefore, and then another no are. Then remember, unlike in proofs that we just finished learning, with categorical syllogisms, there are no term complements. So all of the terms are just going to mirror each other. There's going to be 2 of each. Soldiers and soldiers, patriots and patriots, traitors and traitors. So that what we end up with here is all SRP, no TRP. We use that big equal sign for therefore, and then no TRS. Now remember, for it to be in correct standard form, it has to be the major premise first, the minor premise second, and the conclusion last, from top to bottom. Remember, the major term is the predicate term of the conclusion, and the minor term is the subject term of the conclusion. So if you don't correctly identify your conclusion from the beginning, then you'll have a lot of difficulty and be pretty lost. The middle term is the one that is repeated in the premises but isn't available or isn't present in the conclusion. So if we take a look at this, the major term S is in this premise and the minor term T is in this second premise, so it is in correct standard form. The standard form is correct. So remember, to get the mood, it's just the letter statements or the letter statement names from top to bottom. So since all S or P is an A statement, no T or P is an E statement, and no T or S is an E statement, the mood is then AEE. And you would write it like this. Now the figure, if you will remember, we use the shirt collar to determine, because the figure really just deals with the pattern of the placement of the middle terms. So if the middle terms are diagonally out this way, it would be figure 1. If they're all the way to the right, it would be figure 2. If they're all the way to the left, figure 3. And if they're patterned diagonally out to the right, then it would be figure 4. So because The p's here, the middle terms that we've circled to mimic these circles, because these p's are all the way to the right, then it's figure 2. So we put 2. And I'll show you again for figure, this is what we looked at originally, which was the shirt collar with our friend, the very wide-collared pilgrim, who shows us that in figure 1, the S stands for the minor term, the P for the major term, and the M for the middle term. And these are also in your book on page 261 if you're in the 11th edition, and so is the quote-unquote shirt collar. So if we go back to our example, AEE2 is what we're looking at. Now, mood and figure help us to determine how the way that an argument is set up, how its form determines whether it's valid or invalid. So what you would do is go to page 262 in your textbook, and you would look at this chart, the unconditionally valid forms chart and the conditionally valid forms chart. You'd go to this one first, the unconditionally valid forms chart. That's why I've got a number 1, remember, next to it. That represents Boolean, which we talked about too. And then if it's not there, if the right mood is not under the right figure there, then you would go on to the second chart, the conditionally valid forms chart, and you would look under the appropriate figure there, but there's a required condition. And remember, that's when we talked about unicorns and fairies, etc. I'll talk about that again in a moment just to refresh your memory. Today, our argument was AEE figure 4. So under figure 4 on the first chart, I'm going to try to find AEE. And it is, in fact, there. So I don't have to use the second chart at all. I only have to go to the first chart to find out that it is unconditionally valid. So that's what I would put as my answer. Unconditionally valid. So on an examination, what you might be asked to do is to take an argument, put it into standard form, identify the major, minor, and middle terms, put it into correct standard form further by putting the major premise first, the minor premise second, and the conclusion last from top to bottom. Name the mood, which is again the letter statements from top to bottom, and then the figure, which is determined by the pattern of the placement of the middle terms. Then look that up on the chart to determine whether or not it is valid or invalid, or whether it is valid or invalid. Now, we didn't have a chance to look at another example that might deal with the second chart. So let's do that now with mood and figure.